Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi departed on Monday morning for Venezuela as the head of state will begin his Latin American tour. Mexico's ruling National Regeneration movement, the Morena Party, stated that its candidate for the 2024 presidential election will be announced on September the 6th. And also, the Stockholm Institute for Peace Studies warns that the nuclear-capable states have increased their arsenals, a symptom of deteriorating geopolitical relations. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. The Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi departed on Monday morning for Venezuela as the head of state will begin his LATAM tour. The Persian head of state assured that his country has a strong spirit of resistance against the hegemonic powers, which is a common premise of his nation with Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua. He specifically emphasized the political, economic, and commercial ties between Tehran and Caracas, highlighting cooperation in the energy industry. He assured that he is traveling in the hope that the consultations and agreements of his tour will mark a milestone and further consolidate relations with Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua. And Mexico's ruling National Regeneration movement, the Morena Party, stated that its candidate for the 2024 presidential elections will be announced on September the 6th, after polling to pick a winner. Following a meeting of the party's leadership in Mexico City aimed at setting out rules for the internal contest, Alfonso Durazo, the Morena governor of the northern state of Sonora, said the 5 polls will be held to elect a candidate. In this sense, the Morena's board resolved that all those competing for the party's candidacy must step down from public office to campaign. The decision had been widely anticipated and followed a recommendation made by the president Andrés Manuel López Obrador, which aimed at keeping his movement united. Meanwhile, Morena Party chairman Mario Delgado stated that debates are not expected to happen, but contenders will be able to campaign across Mexico from June the 19th to August 27th.
As of tomorrow, registration are open. The candidates have to express in writing their commitments to continue the fourth transformation and accept, of course, the result of this poll, which will be final. When do the campaigns begin? From June 19th to August 27th. When do the polls begin? From August 28th to September 3rd. When will the results be announced? September 6th.
On Monday in China, President Xi Jinping held talks with his Honduran counterpart Xiomara Castro at the Great People's Palace within the framework of President Castro's 6-day visit. President Xi Jinping noted that his visit is of special significance for having opened a new chapter in the relations between their nations. China and Honduras renewed diplomatic relations on March 26, at the same time that Tegucigalpa broke off diplomatic relations with Taiwan after 82 years of diplomatic relations. During the meeting, the leaders witnessed the signing of 17 bilateral cooperation documents under Belt and Road, economy, trade, quality inspection, agriculture, science and technology, and cultural education. Peruvian authorities in the province of Cajamarca and the peasant movements organized rallies in defense of water bodies threatened by the mining activities. The demonstrators gathered in lakes of Alto Peru in the province of São Paulo to commemorate the anniversary of the declaration of the inviolability of the 284 lakes and more than 500 bodies of water located in the area. The members of the movements ratified that this zone should not be touched by mining companies. The demonstrators said they will remain united in the defense of these waters that supply different regions of the country. In Brazil, President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has called for a mobilization in the face of the risk of extradition to the United States faced by the activist Julian Assange. The head of state expressed his concern after the London High Court rejected Assange's extradition appeal. Lula reiterated that the arrest of the WikiLeaks founder was contrary to the defense of democracy and freedom of the press. In the face of the activist's extradition, the Brazilian president called on the international community to demonstrate in support of Assange. The journalist's defense has until June 13th to file a new appeal. If this new appeal is rejected, Assange will face 18 charges and will have to answer to espionage charges in the United States, for which he could be sentenced to 175 years in prison. On Sunday, the party Frente de Todos achieved a wide victory in the elections of the province of Tucumán, where the Peronist candidate Oswaldo Haldo won the victory for the position of governor in the primary elections. The Argentine president sent a message of congratulations to the candidate Oswaldo Haldo, who obtained 57.75% of the votes in the province of Tucumán, confirming the Peronist hegemony in the northern Argentine province. On the other hand, President Fernandez also congratulated the opposition candidate Claudio Poggi, who won the governorship of the province of San Luis with 54.63% of the votes. Fernandez announced that he will travel to Tucumán on Monday to join the Peronism celebrations. Sunday's elections were suspended on May 14th by decision of the Supreme Court of Justice due to a challenge filed against Juan Mansur's candidacy for vice governor, who finally decided to withdraw his candidacy. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find the news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Italy's former prime minister and leader of the Forza Italia party, Silvio Berlusconi, died at the age of 86. According to his press office, Berlusconi, who had a recent history of health issues, had recently been diagnosed with leukemia. He had been admitted to Milan's San Raffaele hospital before with breathing problems and issues, and attended a checkup there on Friday. The politician, who was long regarded as Italy's most colorful public figure, was elected prime minister 3 times and served for a total of 9 years, longer than any other lawmaker in the country. The former premier was tried on charges ranging from tax evasion and bribery to corruption and having intercourse with an underage prostitute. However, only one case stuck, and 2012 conviction for tax evasion in a deal involving television rights. And polling stations in Montenegro closed on Sunday after 13 hours of voting in early parliamentary elections, which could be considered the lowest turnout in the country's multi-party history since 1991. Some 540,000 citizens went to the polls to elect the 81 deputies of parliament. According to the Center for Monitoring and Research, the CEMI, which is listed as an election observer, the registered turnout was 50.8%, well below what that obtained in the 2020 with 74.9% and 2016 with 71.6% legislative elections, and in the presidential elections last March with 60.5%. Voters had a choice of 15 parties and coalitions. The elections passed off normally with few irregularities, and it is estimated that they should put an end to the political instability in Montenegro, which has caused the fall of governments since 2020. And nuclear-capable states have increased their arsenals, a symptom, according to the Stockholm Institute for Peace Studies, of deteriorating geopolitical relations. The organization's latest report shows that arms control and disarmament diplomacy have suffered a major setback in the context of the Ukrainian conflict. The total world inventory recorded by January 2023 some 12,512 operational nuclear warheads. That is 86 more than in January 2022. Of those, currently about 2,000, most of them belonging to Russia and the United States, remained deployed. The Swedish Institute also stated that 90% of all the world's nuclear weapons are possessed mainly by Moscow and Washington. Now we move on to other topics. The Russian Ministry of Defense denounced a new attack by Ukraine against a vessel of the Black Sea Fleet. The Defense Ministry informed in a press release that Kyiv's armed forces tried to attack a Russian war vessel that was performing tasks of protection of the Turkish Stream and Blue Stream gas pipelines in the southeast of the Black Sea. According to the report, 6 unmanned speedboats attempted to attack the Priazovi ship. However, the vessel managed to repel the attack and destroy the enemy targets. The Russian defense assured that during the attack there were no casualties and that the ship was not damaged. Authorities also said that the Russian reconnaissance ship is continuing its mission in its responsibility zone.
During the repelling of the attack, all boats were destroyed by fire from the standard weapons of the Russian ship, 300 kilometers southeast of Sevastopol. There were no casualties. The ship received no damage. During this period, as in the course of the previous similar attacks, the Strategic Reconnaissance Unmanned Aerial Vehicle RQ-4 Global Hawk of the U.S. Air Force conducted reconnaissance in the airspace in the central part of the Black Sea. The ship Priazovi of the Black Sea Fleet continues to perform its task.
And the number of people hospitalized after the destruction of the dam and the Kakova hydroelectric power plant in the Kherson region has increased to 77. The information was provided by the acting governor of the region, Vladimir Haldo, who also said that doctors were providing the patients with all the necessary medical care. Moscow has accused the Ukrainian armed forces for the attack of the morning of June the 6th. The action destroyed its valves and prompted an uncontrolled release of water, which affected 35 settlements, whose residents are being evacuated. Local authorities have reported 8 people dead, 2 of them killed in an artillery strike on an evacuation center. And TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries using StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In all Israeli prisons, preparations for the general strike caused by the Palestinian prisoners arrested under the violating figure of administrative prisoners have begun. The call was made by the Committee of Administrative Detainees, recently created by the Supreme Emergency Committee of the National Movement of Prisoners in Palestine, under the motto, Revolution for Freedom, Intifada of Administrative Prisoners. They start on Monday the operatives for the fast fixed, starting from June 18th, when the prisoners under the administrative regime will refuse to eat food or liquids. They assure that it is a strategy of struggle so that the occupier respects the norms of international law. In Israel, thousands took to the streets in cities and towns across the nation for the 23rd straight week, protesting controversial judicial reform plans as well as deadly violence hitting Arab communities. The hard-right government's reform proposals could curtail the authority of the Supreme Court and give politicians greater powers over the selection of judges. In March, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had announced a pause to allow for talks of the divisive reforms. Some protesters held signs criticizing government inaction over a soaring crime wave that has affected the country's Arab minority. Since the start of the year, some 100 people have been killed in crime-related violence in Arab Israeli communities.
Our country is being captured by extreme people that wish us all to be dictator. They captured all the economy here, all the human rights, and we are being hosted by extreme forces.
One by one, they're passing one law after the other. So we have to be aware we don't have the possibility to give up. What we are screaming, what we are shouting here is peace, democracy, equality. This is what we are fighting for.
After 23 weeks, we can see that the anti-occupation bloc is really getting bigger. They can't ignore us. I can say that our group, looking the occupation in the eye, we giving here tens of thousands of brochures and stickers, T-shirts. The public is more and more with us.
On Sunday, Syrian government has announced it will work with the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, to help children affected by years of conflict. According to Syria, the parties discussed social programs for children with special needs, child protection, guidelines for psychosocial support and mental health. The government also stressed the importance of working with the UN agency and noted the need for joint technical meetings to lay the groundwork and the future proposals for the plan, which will be managed by the Syrian Commission for Family and Population Affairs. According to UNICEF, 90% of the Syrian children are in need of humanitarian assistance, and hundreds of thousands are out of school as a result of the conflict in the country. And the 14th Ordinary Summit of Heads of State and Government of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, the IGAD, takes place on Monday in Djibouti, with peace and security as crucial topics on the working agenda. The leaders of Ethiopia, Eritrea, Kenya, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, Uganda, and the host country Djibouti discuss critical issues for regional stability and development in times of strong regional and global upheavals. Representatives of the African Union, the European Union, and the United Nations are also present at the meeting. The Intergovernmental Authority on Development is an 8-country trade bloc in Africa. It includes governments from the Horn of Africa, Nile Valley, and the African Great Lakes. On Sunday, members of Mali's security forces exercised their vote during early voting ahead of the referendum on the new constitution. The referendum, scheduled for June 18th, is an important milestone on the road to elections promised for February 2024. Next June 18th, Mali's citizens will have to respond yes or no to the question of the referendum. The draft constitution strengthens the power of the president, and under it, it is the head of state and not the government who appoints the prime minister and ministers. The president also has the right to dismiss them as to dissolve the parliament. Constitutional change has long been under discussion in Mali. A referendum set for 2017 did not take place, and this June 18th referendum will be the first national vote since 2020. And now we move on to other topics. Authorities on Monday closed beaches in Pakistan's coastal city of Karachi and ordered fishermen back in anticipation of Cyclone Biparjoy. Restaurants near the beach were closed to avoid loss of life, as authorities also ordered fishing boats back because of the threat posed by the approaching cyclone. From the Arabian Sea, Cyclone Biparjoy is aimed at Pakistan's Sindh province and the coastline of the western India state of Gujarat. It is forecast to make landfall on Thursday and could reach maximum wind speeds of up to 200 kilometers per hour. Biparjoy is the first severe cyclone to approach Pakistan since devastating floods last year left more than 1,000 people dead and over $30 billion in losses.
The same government has failed to take adequate measures. There should have been lifeguards here at the beach. They should have stopped the public from visiting the beaches strictly. But there are people here on the beach. Policemen are trying to stop people but failing in their job.
And the Cuban President Miguel DiazCanel expressed his solidarity with the families affected by the heavy rains that hit the central and eastern regions of the country. The president stressed the government's commitment to assist all those affected by the disaster. The head of state also acknowledged the courage and organization of the authorities and institutions that face these events and thanked them for their dedication and efforts in the response to the emergency. The heavy rains caused several streams to overflow their banks, affecting more than 3,000 homes, while around 400 people in 4 municipalities had to be evacuated from their homes. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.